Here we are on the front of our Entegra Odyssey. We're going to do a tutorial walkthrough on here like the technician would give you on the date of delivery, going through some tips and tricks along the way and showing you the operation of the components that are on here. If you want a deeper dive on these components or others that may come in your unit, you can find that under our HAPS Helpful Hacks section of the playlist under Great American RV YouTube channel. We're going to start here in the front, of course, under our hood. We do have all of our engine components and everything. This is an E450 chassis right here. So we're going to take a look, and we have our chassis battery right here that is going to operate our engine. And of course our engine, our air breather, all of our fluids, just like you would normally see under any other vehicle. This is where all that's located: oil dipstick, transmission fluid. All of this stuff is going to be customer maintenance. You need to keep track of your fluids, your air filter, all that stuff. Whatever the suggested maintenance is from the manufacturer, you need to take care of it as the customer. So here we are on the driver's side. Of course, we have our side cameras right there to help us while we're turning. We have front storage there. We're also going to notice we have that low point drain in between right here. That is to open up and we can drain our water system out and prepare it for winterization. We'll go over a little bit more about that when we hit our water center. We also have some videos on it on our HAPS Helpful Hacks section. Here we have our generator. We can turn it off and on from here. We'd have to open this center up right here. We have our controls, our on-off button. We're also going to see an AC breaker, alternating current, meaning 110 breaker. We have that right here. This would be our on-off for it. If this system were to ever trip, we would come over here and reset this. We would know that it tripped because we're not going to have any 110 voltage in our unit. So if we checked our breakers over there in the bedroom area, we'll show you later, and everything is fine, we're going to want to come over here and check this breaker right here to make sure that it's not tripped. Reset it. Before we reset it, want to make sure like our air conditioners, all that stuff are off. That way it's not causing a quick surge on that generator system whenever it kicks it back on. That's where that's at. We have our on-off button right here, our gas prime. We'd hold that button down to go ahead and prime that unit up before we hit that start button. And that's pretty much it. We have an hour meter here on the side. Just like your engine, you're going to have regular maintenance intervals that you need to cover on here, and make sure that you're changing the oil on it and all that stuff. We need to make sure that we always have that cover on it when we're running too, because it is designed for that fan to circulate air properly through there. If we don't have that cover on there, this thing can overheat. In our next storage compartment right here, we have our power cord that we can see is plugged into the wall. Want to make sure our AC and stuff is off before we go to plug this shore power in, so we're not causing any surges to those appliances. Here we're going to have our cable hookup. We can feed all of this stuff through our little compartment right there so we can shut our door. Also have a 110 outlet out there if we want to go ahead and use that for anything. Last compartment on the driver's side, we do have our water fixture knobs in here as far as how we want our water flow to go. We're going to touch on that in a second. We have our fuel station, and then we'll also have our black tank flush, which is going to be incorporated with our black and gray tank dumps right here. We'll touch on black tank flush when we get to that. We have our city water connection up there. That's important to know where that is whenever we touch on our city water fixtures and everything right here. Real quick, we also have our shower, hot and cold, there on the side. And let's go ahead and hit on these valves right here so we know where our water is going. All right, so we have our valve assembly right here. These two valves incorporate with these two valves right here. Now our city fixtures, that is meaning that we are hooked up to that outside city water connection we talked about. With a hose from the campsite, we turn that water hose on, we turn the city fixtures, and that's going to run water to all of our faucets and everything on the interior. Our city fill tank, same thing. We have the water hooked up to the city water connection. We're at our house. We want to fill that fresh tank. In order to do that, we're going to go to the 1 and 6 positions up top, and then we turn that water on, and that will begin to fill our tank. We can monitor how much water we have in that tank whenever we get to the inside. Now keep in mind, this does add more weight to your unit. If you don't need it, dump it. We don't want that water to become stagnant. It's also adding, like I said, more weight to our unit. So try to be conservative how much you put in there if you want to. It will make a difference, and we'll show you where that drain for that is here shortly. Our country fill sanitized tank, that is if we want to sanitize our fresh tank. We would go ahead and hook a water hose up to that city water connection, turn to the 1 and 4 position, kick on our water pump, and we put that other end of the water hose in a mixture of bleach and water. We can fill that tank and sanitize that system. Normal flow is going to be, if we want to use the water pump, which would be water from our fill tank that we did, we would go to 3 and 5, kick on the water pump, and that would pull from our fresh tank out to our fixtures to be able to have water if we don't have a city water connection. Last one is sanitize and winterize our lines. We showed you that low point drain outside. We would drain all the water out of our low point system. Same thing, hook a water hose up to our city water connection, run it to a bottle of RV antifreeze, turn it to the positions 2 and 4, kick our water pump on, and that will pull that RV antifreeze into our lines. Now we do have more information for winterization in our owner's manual, as well as a few videos on our HAPS Helpful Hacks. Here's where we have our black and gray tank valves where we dump our system, pull that cap off, hook our sewer hose up. If we have a port at the campsite, we can hook up there. Otherwise, everything's going to have to hold until we get to our dump station. Now, if we do have that port at the campground, we can go ahead and leave our gray water valve open all the time as long as we have our hose hooked up. That's just sink and shower water right there. You can just let that flow out. It's going to fill up fairly quick with showers and stuff. Let it flow out. Our black tank, however, we need to make sure that valve is closed until we're ready to dump. Reason being is we're putting solids in that tank, and that stuff can dry up if we don't leave water in that system. So we want to make sure that valve's closed till we're ready to dump. Procedure for dumping is come over here, pull the handle, let everything start flowing out. We hook a water hose up to our black tank flush up there. We kick that water hose on, and that will send water to a spray port on the other side of that tank, help push everything out and flush out that system. Now, when we are done, we're satisfied with flushing, we can go ahead and shut that black tank flush off. We close this valve, we go on the inside, we hold the pedal down, and we start filling up our black tank with several gallons of water. We want to make sure we put in there, like I said, so none of those sediments dry up. And we drop some chemicals in there while you're traveling down the road. That water will kind of slosh around, clean up your tank a little bit. Of course, chemicals are going to help degrade anything that might be left in there. Now, there are some other tips on how to hit that black tank flush a little bit better. This is how your owner's manual is going to suggest to do it. I've got some tips, some pro tips on our HAPS Helpful Hacks section under black tank flush. On the back of our unit, of course, we have our backup camera to see behind us while we're traveling or while we're backing up. We have our 7-way plug, receiver hitch, tow hook, hookups, everything down here at the bottom to a trailer or towed vehicle behind us. And lastly, we have our factory supply ladder to gain access to our roof. Now, we do have a fiberglass roof up there. We need to check the sealants on it around our vents and everything, and around our front and rear caps, as well as the sealants around our sides with our trims, our lights, our windows. Everywhere where you see a hole that was put in your unit, you need to check the sealant on it. We're looking for cracking, peeling, deterioration of that sealant, and we need to clean it and reseal over it. This is expected to be done every 60 to 90 days according to your owner's manual, and it is considered customer maintenance. If we neglect this and we get a water leak, manufacturers aren't going to participate in that kind of repair. So make sure we're staying on top of our sealants on a regular basis, whether you have it under a protective cover, storage, whatever, check your sealant no matter what. We also want to get up, clean that roof a couple times a year as well to go ahead and keep it nice and clean, and also be checking that sealant a little bit better once it's cleaned. Here on the rear of our unit, our very last compartment, we're going to see 2 more low point drains. These will coordinate along with that winterization. We want to go ahead and open those up to drain that water out of that system and prepare it. Then we also have a quick connect right here for our LP system. This valve right here turns it off. That turns it back on. It would have to be off to hook that quick connect on, and then it would have to be on for that flow to come out. Once again, off to disconnect that quick connect. More storage in that second to last bay. We also have our Dometic water heater right here. This is a tanked water heater with electric and propane in there. We'll go over the option of that whenever we get on the inside. We'll also have our Dometic furnace. This is the exhaust for that. It will spit out some hot air, so be mindful of that whenever it is operating. We have more storage down here. We have our LP tank system right here. We can see we have our empty and full meter here. This is where we would fill, this is where it bleeds, and this is where we turn it off and on. Suggested you turn that system off when you store it, up to you on what you want to do. Above that, we have our outdoor TV, along with the 110 outlet under there, and we also have our outdoor speakers controlled by that system. Up above, we're going to have that vent. That vent is going to be over our 3-burner stove to ventilate out for our range hood. We want to go ahead and make sure those tabs are open so that air will actually ventilate out. Whenever we store it, we want to close those tabs so no insects can build any holes in there. So we're going to have our 12-volt awning with our 12-volt awning lights. This is all going to be off of battery power, right? Keep talking about 12-volt appliances throughout your unit. We're going to lead you eventually to the 12-volt fuse panel on the inside, where we would go to look at some of the fuses that control some of these 12-volt components. First place we would go to diagnose if we're having an issue with some of those things. Well, let's talk about our awning for a second. Our awning is mainly a sunshade. We can have it out for a little bit of rain, but we want to make sure that water doesn't puddle on the top of our awning. We may even get condensation from our AC runoff on there. May also get light dew, stuff like that. Want to be able to make sure that water can run off. So that means we need to either lean our awning to the rear or to the front. In this case, we're on the rear. Both awnings awning arms are going to be the same in the front and the rear. All we have to do is grab this arm right here, give it a shake, pull it down, and now our awning is leaned over to the side. That water can drain off. We're ready to roll that awning in, push it up, ready to go. Now, the thing about our awnings is if we do leave it out during a storm, high winds, anything like that, it gets ripped off, it falls down. Something of that nature, it's going to be an insurance claim. So if you're leaving your camper for an extended period of time, you see a storm coming in, whatever, roll that awning in. Rather be safe than sorry and have to pay that high deductible from an insurance claim. Last thing to cover outside is our entry door and our steps. Entry door is shock assisted, and it's going to restrict you from opening it all the way up because of course we have our awning behind it. Now our steps will work off of a little switch here on the inside. If we want to run them in and out every time we open that door, we can go ahead and leave it on. If we don't, we want to go ahead and flip that switch off on the inside. We'll show you where it is in a little while, and we can notice our steps stay out. This is a 12-volt operated step. It does have an override on the ignition that will override that switch and go ahead and bring them in whenever you crank it up. That's pretty much it. Let's run to the inside, check that out. As we enter our unit, we're going to notice a latch on those steps. Open that up and we can see we have our battery system. This is going to be our batteries. They are wet batteries. Now these are wet batteries. We do need to pull the caps off, maintain them, make sure the water level is at the proper height. We're also going to notice that we do have a little breaker in there. We can see it with the little blue button. That is right there. That is a resettable breaker. If it ever trips, you want to come in here and check it. That is going to be for our hydraulic system. Also going to have our battery disconnect in here, function by the switch that will go over here shortly. And these ones with the red caps right here, these are thermal resettable 12-volt fuses. They will reset on their own after they cool off. If they are overamped, they'll heat up and disconnect that 12-volt circuit. Just got to give it a little bit of time, it'll click, and that system will go back to working. Right above our steps, we have our electronic leveling system. We're going to go over that operation right now. All right, so we're going to go over our Lippert auto level system. On this unit, our ignition is required, so that means we have to have our engine on, emergency brake on, and we would just go to auto level. It would begin the auto level, and want to make sure we're not moving around in our unit whenever this is taking place. Otherwise, it will throw off the sensors whenever it is leveling, and your unit isn't going to turn out very level. Once it's complete, of course, it will notify us auto level is success. If it gives you any failures, it'll let you know that too. Now, if we go to our home screen, that is generally the first screen that's going to pop up when we're ready to retract our jacks. We just hit retract, everything's going to come down and automatically retract. We need to make sure this is complete before we hit the road. Right. We have a couple other features on here. If we hit our menu button up at the top, we have our manual mode. We can extend the front, extend the rear, and our sides if we want to manually level our unit. We can also use this after it auto levels. If we have some slight tweaking we need to do, maybe our bathroom door is just slowly closing up, we want to pitch our unit over to the side to keep it from doing that, we can certainly go in and adjust that manually. You do have an app that we can download. It will be via Bluetooth on our system. We go ahead and have that app downloaded, connect Bluetooth through our phone, and we could actually operate our jacks. Our calibration is based on which end of the vehicle we are facing. This screen is facing the front of the vehicle, so we would click that, We would then choose a level reference point. So our floor, our main floor area, we'd take 4-foot level, put it out there. And then on the next set of screens to operate the jacks to level that point front to rear and left to right. So it would bring us into our manual level. Basically, we're going to manually level our unit until we got that 4-foot level into that perfectly level position. Then we would hit confirm level, and that would confirm our new 0 point. We only want to do this if we find our auto level is not hitting the right spot. It can happen. Rarely is this system going to erase your 0 point leveling that's there. So this is only if you ever have to go in there, tweak it a little bit because it's off for whatever reason. Sometimes low voltage can cause issues with it, but generally if there's a problem, it's going to give you an error code on here and let you know. We're going to see attached to our frame under here, this is our LCI hydraulic pump system. This is to operate our leveling jacks on our unit, and it is a 12-volt operated pump. There are some override instructions for that, and you look forward to those videos on Hap's Helpful Hacks at some point. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss it when it comes around. So it is a 12-volt operated jack system. It's only going to work with your ignition on, and of course your battery disconnect as well. We showed you where that pump system is. You can go diagnose through there. We will have some videos up that covers these types of systems. Here we have our Go Power solar remote. This is basically just going to monitor and let you know how your voltage system is working as far as your solar power coming in and charging your batteries. Or a few settings in there that you can go through to change the type of batteries and stuff that you have in there. But basically this is the monitor that's going to tell you that system is on and operating. Of course, we have our COLP detector that is going to notify you of any cautious gases that may be leaking into your unit. Has an audible alarm on it. We need to test that every time we go camping to make sure it's working. Of course, the green light lets us know it's powered up. It is hardwired into our battery system, so it's going to be on all the time. And we're also going to have smoke detectors in our unit too. We need to check the 9-volt battery and check the audible alarm on that as well. You'll notice on both that they do have expiration dates on them. We need to check that expiration date and make sure that they are changed out when that time comes around. Our exterior lights, this is for our awning lights outside. You can see they're on, and they are also dimmable. We have our awning switch that runs it in and out. Our power steps. So this is the switch that I was talking about. If you want your steps to stay out, you can go ahead and turn them off, and that step will stay out. If you want them to roll in and out whenever you open and close that door, you can leave them on. And then of course our battery disconnect. This is going to disconnect your battery from your unit on the house side of things and basically conserve that battery power. That way whenever you store it unplugged, it's not pulling off that voltage. Now if you store your unit plugged in, you want that battery disconnect on, so your converter, which is basically your battery charger, will be charging your batteries while you're plugged in. So that means if you're storing your unit plugged in, or you're camping and your unit's plugged in, whatever the case may be, leave it on so that battery can go ahead and get its charge. Up at the top above our kitchen counter, we have our generator. This is our hour meter right here. Keep track of the hours so we know when to do maintenance on it. Our start and stop. We can hold down our stop button to go ahead and prime our generator just like outside and then crank it up. We have our slide out, extend, and retract. That is a Schwintek slide on this system. We do have videos that go over that Schwintek slide system and give you a few tips and stuff on if you have any issues with it. We also have our monitor system right here for our battery, our fresh tank, and our black and gray tanks. That's going to tell you what the full and empty level of them are. We're also going to have a fault light up here for our water heater system. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then we have our pump light right here that lets us know when our pump is on and activated for our fresh water system. Now, of course, that is going to pull from our fresh tank. We only use that when we're dry camping. We don't have a city water connection. We want to turn that off if we do. Now, this is an on-demand pump. It's only going to work whenever we operate our faucets. We're going to hear that pump run, and once we turn our faucet off, it should shut off shortly after that. You may hear it run every now and again, just priming up the system, but if you hear it consistently run and all your faucets are off, then we want to go ahead and shut that pump off. Our tank may be empty, or we have a leak in our system. We want to check it out before it burns up that pump. Our tank heaters is 12-volt mat. We kick that on. That'll heat our tanks in extreme weather. We want to do that so they don't freeze up. And now we have our water heater, LP and electric. Now LP, of course, we need our propane tank on. We kick it on. It's going to kick on, and if there is a fault with that LP, it doesn't light, or there's an issue, that fault light right there is going to light up. We'll have our electric have to be plugged in, of course, for that to work. You can run both of them at the same time if you want. It'll heat that water up a little bit faster. But we also need to make sure we have water in that tank on both of these whenever we go to operate it. Otherwise, we can cause some damage to the elements. And jump over to our driver's seat. And here in the front, of course, set up just like your car would be. We have our options from forward with our cruise control. A couple of options to work the menu up front. We have our mirror controls there on the side, our lights here. And if we open up this door, we can take a better look. We have our auxiliary start. That auxiliary start basically connects your chassis battery and your house batteries, almost like a set of jumper cables. When we push it, it will connect those batteries. That way, if our chassis battery is low, it'll basically jump those house batteries to it and help you start it in that event. Of course, power windows, power locks, and then when we move over, we have our AC system, traction control system off if we want. We have our built-in inverter system. We can go ahead and plug in a phone charger, whatever, USB, so on and so forth. This USB system right here will connect to our radio. And then, of course, we have our actual radio here. We hit home. We do have Bluetooth option. We have our camera system on here. We also have more settings in here that go over customization and everything else on your unit. Basically, you're going to be using it for your Bluetooth, your radio, your rear camera system, and that's pretty much it. You're also going to have left and right blinkers on here for safety in order to help you change lanes whenever you're traveling down the road. Now, you can flip your front seats around. It does take a little work to be able to do that. You have to kind of move them up, flip this switch down here at the bottom back, and as you are turning, you have to kind of scoot that seat around, lift the back up, and work it around to be able to get that seat where you need it. Scoot it forward all the way, lock it in. Now we can have more seating area for our living area. Driver's seat is the same way. Of course, you're fighting your steering wheel there. You have to lift it up, do a few more adjustments in order to get it to flip around. To go back, same thing. We're going to grab that lever, push it back, and then begin to work that seat around this way. Slide it back, slide it forward. And ready to travel. All right, for your front bunkhouse area, of course, we do have a storage net here. If we want to put some storage up there, we can. We can also take this net down if we want. We're going to have more cushions for our dinette booth area. We'll show you in a bit. Main thing is your sleeping option up here. If we flip that around, we have that bunk area. We have a ladder that we can attach right here. We also have a shade in the front. Click this button off to the side, and that shade will run down for that front windshield. Same thing, it'll run back up as well. TV system over here. Pull this latch down at the bottom, and that will swing out. Of course, we want to make sure it's latched in whenever we're in travel, so it's not flying around. That is a Connects TV with our JBL soundbar right there. Now, on the back of our TV, we are going to have an antenna boost. So we'll look over here on the side. See this system right here where our coax is hooked up. Of course, we have our satellite rooftop ports. We are pre-wired up there for that satellite. But below this is our main port for cable and antenna. Now, we noticed a couple buttons on there. They're going to turn a little green light off and on each side. Now, this button right here is going to be for our antenna boost, and we're going to use that when we're scanning for antenna channels, meaning we don't have cable. This will help boost the signal to where we can pick up more channels in our area. We want that on when we do that. If we're scanning for cable, we want to turn that off so we are not scrambling the channels from the campground. The other one is the on and off button for our Wi-Fi system. If we want to upgrade to a WineGuard router, we can go ahead and subscribe to that Wi-Fi and have it with us wherever we go. It'll ping off of these cell phone towers. Our dinette booth can flip down into a bed. We go ahead and pull our table off. This is just a column. We remove that column, set the table down on our bumpers, and of course we can put our cushion over the top of it so we have more sleeping space. Moving into the kitchen, we do have 110 and USB port right there. We can pull that back up and use that whenever we need it, or store it and get it out of the way for more counter space. We have our glass cover over here over our Furrion 3-burner stove. This can be down for more counter space. It also needs to be down for travel. When we use it, we need to go ahead and flip it up. While we're doing that, we'll talk about our 110 microwave. It does have a fan for exhaust. Remember that vent we talked about outside that needs to be open in order for it to exhaust out? We can close it when we store the unit. That way no insects and bugs can build any nest in there. Our 3-burner stove, pretty easy to operate. We have our knobs down here. They do have a switch on the side that creates some ambiance and also turns on our oven light down at the bottom. Where that switch is off or on, when we turn on our oven, we'll notice that that knob lights up red. Lets us know gas is being emitted. Nice little safety feature. Kids like to play with stuff. It's a good indication that we need to go turn it off, right? So in order to operate, we turn it to that flame icon right there. We crank until that stovetop lights. Have a burner knob for each one. And then of course we have our oven down at the bottom. Same thing. Turn it to that flame icon. Crank it until the pilot lights at the bottom. Now the thing about our oven is we need to hold that knob down in order to light that pilot. We also need to hold it down once it lights for an additional 15 seconds or so to warm up that thermocouple. And then we turn it to our desired temperature. That burner tube should light up and we're ready to cook. Now the thing about our propane system is we can get air in our lines. This generally happens when we run out of propane or if we've stored our unit with our tanks off, which is perfectly common and normal to do. Whenever you pull your unit back out, you're going to turn that tank on, you're going to end up with air in your system. Just like I said, with running out of propane and getting it refilled, the same thing is going to happen. Now I suggest before running things like your water heater or your furnace, we want to come over to our stove and kick that on. It's going to take a little while to light because you're pushing that air through the system, but this is the quickest, easiest way to bleed that air out. We light our stovetop, we let it run for about 60 seconds till we have that nice blue crisp flame, and we shut down our system. We can go operate our other appliances. We won't have to do it again unless we run out of propane or we shut off that tank for an extended period. Here we have that 12-volt Furrion refrigerator controlled by a little knob here on the inside. Goes from off to colder, and then we also have our off-grid option. That's going to be used whenever we don't have a plug-in. We're out boondocking somewhere. We're trying to conserve the amount of power we are using off of our battery system. We would go to off-grid, and that would help us conserve that power. Our compressor isn't going to work as hard to keep everything cool, but in order for this to work properly and still keep our goods cold, we don't want to go in and out of this fridge on a regular basis. We want to try to help keep that cold air isolated in there. Now when we defrost our fridge, we shut everything off to store it. We want to keep in mind we don't have drain tubes in here. So we need to go ahead and defrost our freezer properly, wipe all the water out of there, and same thing in our fridge, wipe everything down. You're reducing the opportunity for mold and mildew, and that water will actually leak out of there and damage our wood components around our fridge, and manufacturers aren't going to participate in that kind of repair. It's considered customer maintenance to wipe and defrost our fridge down, get all the water out of it whenever we are storing it. All right, in our bathroom, pretty cut and dry. We have our shower, hot and cold. We're also going to have a fan in here to exhaust air out. It's recommended we do that whenever we are taking a shower to get the heat and humidity out of here so we don't cause any mold and mildew. And we're also going to have an on-off feature on that shower head you generally use when you're dry camping. You don't have that sewer port or you don't have a hose bib. You're trying to conserve the amount of water you're using out of your fresh tank or putting into your gray tank. Easy on-off right there at the shower head between soaping up and rinsing off. We can use that rather than trying to find that sweet spot for the hot and cold at the faucet. Up to you on whether or not you want to use it. We have our toilet right here. That is going to lead to our black tank, right? Only things we're putting in there is sewage, which is number 1, liquids, and number 2, solids and toilet paper. And speaking of toilet paper, that would be our number 3. We're using RV toilet paper only, so it degrades properly. It doesn't clog up our pipes. And number 4, we're using RV black tank chemicals to help degrade what's in there, help keep it smelling nice, and that way our flushing and everything will go properly whenever we go to dump our tanks. Now as far as flushing all that stuff, we're going to go ahead and just hit our pedal for number 1. It's just liquids, flush it, send it down the drain. Number 2, solids, We need to fill this bowl about 1/2 to 3/4 of the way. We do that by barely pushing that pedal down, and that bowl will begin to fill up. That's to make sure we have enough water in the bowl to actually send those solids down to the drain without things getting clogged up. Of course, we do have our bedroom area. Whenever we go to run our slide in, we flip that mattress up, ready to camp, flip it down. Under your bed, you also have a little bit of storage under here in the front that you can use. And then under our cabinets, we're going to notice our 110 and 12 volt centers right here. We have our 110 breakers. That's where all those breakers are. Everything's going to be labeled in there. You're going to have your main GFCI breaker down here too with that little white test button. That is going to control all your outlets in wet locations like outside, kitchen area, bathroom, pretty much all your outlets in your unit. Now that generally trips because we have too much stuff plugged into it with heating elements, griddles, hair dryers, coffee makers, stuff like that. It will trip that system out. It'll also trip out because the outlets are wet. So if you come over here to reset it by turning it off, flipping it back on, and it trips right away, go unplug some of those items and also make sure those outlets aren't wet, and then try it again. That will probably solve your problem. Over here we have our 12 volt center. That is where all of our fuses are. We keep talking about our 12 volt components. That's where we're going to go to diagnose any issues that we have with that system. And we're just looking for any burnt fuses in that panel. Also in our bedroom, we're going to have our thermostat, Coleman Mach thermostat, to control our heat and our cool. And in order to do that, we flip our switch down here at the bottom all the way to the left to cool. We can operate our thermostat right here. Obviously to the left lowers our degree mark, to the right is going to heat it up. We also have fan mode. We have fan, we'll just turn on the fan and run either on high or low, whatever we choose. It's not going to cool any air, it's only going to circulate it. And then we have off, which will shut everything off, and our heat mode, which will kick on our furnace. Propane furnace, that air is going to come down out of our floor vents down here at the bottom. Only our cool air is going to come out of the top. We'll touch on that ceiling assembly in a second. And then we have our fan mode. Our fan mode runs on high-low auto or low-high on. Okay, so each one of these is an option. We can do low or high. Auto is that fan is going to turn off when our compressor turns off, just like we would normally run our air conditioner at home. Then we have low and high. If we want that fan to run all the time, regardless of whether the compressor's off or on, we can go ahead and do it there. Down below that, we have our slide out in and out option right there. It gives you the option to run your slide here as well as your one up in the front. Of course, our rear light option. And then up top, we have our inverter system. If we were to kick that on, that's going to change 12 volts to 110. So if we are dry camping, once again, dry camping somewhere, we don't have a plug-in, we can kick that on. It's going to feed off of our battery system and send power to those 110 outlets to where we could operate some of our small appliances. Last thing to go over on our unit is our sealing assembly for our AC. We'll notice these vents down at the end right here. These are quick dump vents. If we go ahead and open them up, it's going to force air out of here to cool off this area quickly. If we want the air to be forced through our sealing ducts up here, we need to make sure they are closed. Then it will go ahead and ventilate throughout our entire unit. We also have filters on each side. We pull these two tabs down, we can remove that filter, and we need to go ahead and clean them, make sure we're not restricting air to our AC. That wraps up everything on our unit.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV SuperStores, where we bring the how-to you.